Hello everybody, this is Joe from Blue Man Chew again. I would like to welcome you to another episode of Card Hunter Versus. Today we would like to welcome Alec Meer from Rock Paper Shotgun to the show.
Hello there.
Hey Alec, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. This is my first game of multiplayer Card Hunter, so I'm looking forward to being roundly humiliated, to be honest.
Well, luckily we auto-balanced this by selecting me as your opponent, so let's hope that it works out. But do you want to just quickly introduce Rock Paper Shotgun to the listeners?
Yeah, we're a website been running for somehow 6 years now, which blows my mind every time I think about it. We focus exclusively on PC games. It's just initially for journalists who kind of did it off our own backs. We have no bosses, no lords and masters, and our fundamental ethos is every game is equal until proven otherwise. So an indie game or a free-to-play thing like Card Hunter will be treated with the same interest as the biggest, shiniest, shooty bang bang game from Activision or whoever.
Is it fair to say you guys pick up a lot of strategy games as well? Because I read the site a lot, and my particular thing, as you would imagine from the game we're making, is I love hardcore strategy games and strategy games in general, and I find that you guys do a lot of coverage of strategy games.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the essential PC genres would be strategy, role playing, and shooter really, and they definitely get the lion's shares of stuff, whereas the more masculine pursuits of racing and sports perhaps a bit less so.
Well, Alec just recently had a baby. Congratulations! And
thank you very much.
He rushed back from paternity leave to write a preview of Card Hunter, which impressed me no end, because you did it in the first week that you got back, and it was great. And so I recommend everyone go and check that, have a look at that. And we obviously, a lot of people have come from your site to play the game, so we really appreciate the support you guys have given us, and we hope we can continue to create a game that you like. And so to that end, I promise to go easy on you today, Alec. It will be like that thing where you're not supposed to beat your boss at golf. You know that thing?
Buttering me up, eh?
That's exactly. It'll be, oh, Alec, that was such a great strategy. How did you?
But maybe I'm now going to feel patronised. I think negatively towards you.
Exactly, and also my competitive spirit will fail me, and I'll probably try to grind you into the dust. So without further ado, let's get into the game. So Alec hasn't played the game before, and so which is interesting. We just chose a deck.
Well, I played the single player quite a bit of that.
Sorry, you haven't played the multiplayer game. So we just chose you a deck, didn't we? Which is the Fierce Dwarf starter deck. I will be playing with a version of the starter deck, the Adventurers deck, which I must confess I've had a little help with, because on the last podcast what I did was I invited the #1 player in Card Hunter Land called Lance to come and help me tweak my deck. So there are some tweaks to it, we'll hopefully that won't unbalance the experience.
I'm just a bit worried that he may have been cheating. I mean, his name's Lance. That's got a certain pedigree, hasn't it?
Yeah, it could be. He's got a bit of a fearsome score, but unfortunately, I do believe Lance has been knocked off the top of the top of the tables. Let's choose the forest level, shall we? I'm going to. Whoa. Okay, now this is. I am too busy. It's too early in the morning for me. I'm not. Let's try to do this again. Temple Tussle. Are you in the? Let's have a look. Okay, let's do that. Let's try this. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. So we're in a casual game. I should note at this point we're going to watch the game from my point of view. I didn't point this out last time, and you do have the advantage, Alec, that I'm going to be commentating and saying, rather stupidly telling you what my cards are for the benefit. I'm going to say, right, everybody, this is what I've got. So should I play this or should I play that? And so obviously it's your turn, and
okay.
You're going to have
having that weird thing where I've played a bunch of games, especially turn-based strategy games, since this. It's like, which one? No, this isn't XCOM. This isn't Warhammer Quest. Well, what am I doing? But,
well, of course you also got a bunch of high-end equipment you've got to look at. You have that new stuff.
Yeah, so I'm just checking which of my team. So it's these guys.
Yeah. So
all right, let's speculatively walk over here.
Okay. So one thing, it's a good tactic I've been taught by people in the past, is actually passing on your first go is good, because it allows the opponent to burn movement cards first. Because one of the things I didn't know, and I'm constantly capable of failing to grasp, is that movement is the most important thing in in Card Hunter. I generally, what am I going to do here? I've got my healer who's got sort of healing cards, and this is my favourite card, which is Martyr Blessing, which I always like to get into the game early. So what I'm going to try to do is bring my characters together somewhere in the middle of the map so I can get Martyr's Blessing on my warrior. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Okay.
This is the one where she has like a +2 to hit or something.
No,
like that,
Martyr Blessing gives a card every time a character takes damage. And so it's basically, you know, if you put it on your warrior and he gets hit repeatedly, he gets a card every time he takes damage. And obviously this is a card game, and so it's all about, it's not only about the number of cards you've got in your hand, but it's also about cycling through your deck as quickly as possible to increase the probability of gaining the card that you really need.
I'm sorry, that sounds completely unfair. I'm going to have to rage quit at this point.
For the authentic online experience. I got somebody to rage quit the other day. I felt enormously delighted, actually, because I played a card called Muscle Through, which I've never used before. And what it does is at the end, it's a movement card, and when you land next to a character, it allows him to move the two characters next to him a square each. And I did that, and I moved this guy's characters off the victory squares onto lava terrain right next to them, and it obviously so enraged him that he rage quit. And I think that was more satisfying than the victory itself. And actually, what was super cool is I'd never used that card before, and I only had that card on the equipment in the deck because Lance had said, yeah, that's an amazing card. So this is a card that Lance is big on. He introduces in my deck. It's called Elvish Insight, and it allows all non-elf enemies to shows me all non-elf enemies. It shows me all their cards, and it allows me to draw a card. Which
oh, now I understand why you encouraged me to play an exclusively dwarf theme. Hey?
Damn, he rumbled me. But that's an example of a card that I think, nah, I don't care about that. But it's actually amazingly powerful. So this is what scares the hell out of me about this deck, is the Vicious Thrust card, which is uncommonly powerful. It's a step 2 penetrating at a damage of 7, which on dwarves is terrifying. And this deck, the Vicious Dwarf starter deck, has a lot of them. So you can be sure that I will be staying a long way away from these dwarves.
And of course, yeah, you've encouraged me to take a side that has no ranged abilities whatsoever.
Well, that's the problem with dwarves. I've got to tell you that they are slow and yeah. Let's see now.
Slow but strong. That's the old stereotype.
Yeah.
Now I get it. You're not recording this at all. It's just a setup. You want to humiliate a noob.
I'm lousy at publicity, aren't I? But it's supposed to be nice to them, Joe. Don't beat the hell out of them.
So, yeah. Pass.
Very interesting, strategic. Right, what are we doing then?
You could call it strategic, or call it, I've got jack all I can possibly do at this stage.
Okay, so I have a bunch of telekinesis cards I could play, but I'm not gonna use those. My hand isn't the best. I'm just. As I'm recording, so I can hear all the expert players screaming, yelling in the background. No, don't do that. It's like a train wreck in slow motion. You know what? I am. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this. I think controversial.
He's dashed. Everybody.
Yeah. Now, how this usually rolls is that she gets ganked very early in the game. In the last game against Ben, I got stuck in the corner of the dungeon, and bad things happened to her. So, okay.
So, you may not want to say this, but based on the Elvish Insight card you used earlier, are you currently still very much aware of what I've got?
Well, what was interesting is your characters all had blocks, so they all got to roll against blocking that, and 2 of them failed and 1 succeeded. So I can see it at the top of my screen. I can see 2 of your characters, but I can't see 1 of them. And it's up to you to decide who I can see, Alec.
And of course, I've played a hitherto unknown card that you didn't even know you'd put in the game that caused you to get a false report when you used Elvis Insight.
That's it, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's really obviously again it's a really underrated card, I think, because the ability to look at what you have is amazingly powerful, and it gives me another card, so it allows me. It's a deck cycling card. So I think I'm going to be cagey here. Okay.
I really liked in single player just passing,
Yeah.
and then with the mage just sat there waiting with a kind of area effect fire spells.
Yeah.
So everyone clusters in front and then gets burnt. That was a happy way to play.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's. I'm really interested to see what you think of this playing this multiplayer, because I think the game is quite different in multiplayer, and I actually think it sings in a lot of ways that it doesn't in single player. I mean, I think it's much tougher because obviously, you know, for all the reasons that make multiplayer gaming harder than single player. But I think it's just a lot more fun. Let's see what we've got.
It feels
here.
more high stakes, you know, in single player. Much as I can lose, and it's a pain to rewind. It is like, I can just have another go. Whereas here, it's, you know, my reputation is on the line. If I don't get every single turn right, that is it.
It is, and I will go and cry if I lose this. This is the making of my day, I think. Okay. Yeah, one of the interesting things we're sort of running into right now is, for the first time, we're getting kind of griefers in games. People are sort of trolling other people. It's kind of interesting because we've got generally an incredibly benevolent and supportive community up to this point, but the game is now, you know, the beta is getting large enough, we're getting that kind of behavior, so we actually have to try to sort of change some of the mechanics to prevent people from doing it. Now that...
Oh really?
Yeah.
What kind of thing is going on?
Well, so for instance, people are just sort of coming in and sitting on sitting for 20 minutes without playing a turn to bore the other person in submission. So one of the things we're having to do is to try to change the timer. It's kind of what a beta's for, Alec, is to show us these kind of things. But it's always surprising. Okay, so you played Dwarven Battlecry, which is an amazing card for you, because every dwarf draws a card. Obviously, you got 3 dwarves. I have one too. Happily for all involved, I have the Elvish Insight again. Thank the Lord for Lance. Okay.
Oh, I'm so glad about that,
because that's going to help me, and also it draws some of your blocks, which is good for me. Wow. So there's a couple of your guys that I do not want to get near.
At the same time, I do feel kind of naked.
Do you do? Exposed.
You can see all my junk right now.
Steady. This is a family show, Alec. Right. So okay, this is actually quite a good mix of decks. So I got this card, folks. I'm now getting cagey. I don't want to tell him what I've got. This card's going to be very good against slow dwarves. This is my backup.
We're drawing out an undue amount of drama from 2 people very slowly walking towards each other.
Two people being rather inept in a video game. Right. No, I'm just afraid. My already diminished reputation amongst the players is. I'm not sure it can take another beating. Okay, let's try something controversial. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna be. What am I gonna do here? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna move my character here because I want him involved, but I'm a little bit afraid still.
I'm still lacking the ability to get to you and give you the damn good hiding
that I so thoroughly deserve. Well, that is the distraction, unfortunately, of dwarves, which is nice. Okay, now Inspiration is an awesome card, by the way. That's Lance and I were talking about last time. It's something that I definitely ignore to my peril because it allows me to cycle through my deck much faster and therefore get the cards that I really need. Okay, hooray! I finally get to play Martyr Blessing, which is that card I was telling you about, which is where I get an extra card for whenever I take damage, which I like for 2 turns because I'm predicting a lot of damage is going to be sustained.
So I need to find a way to kill you in a single hit, essentially.
Well, with the deck that with the characters you're playing, I would not be surprised if you could do that. So yeah, what have we got? So this is the Danger Man, this guy here, because he has these cards, which I want to stay away from. Okay, so what are we going to do? So he's got that as well. I really want to get this in play. I sound a bit like David Attenborough right now, don't I? Okay. Whispering Dave. Okay, let's do this. Now, this is good. Okay, interesting. So I did Cone of Cold, which is something I've not used very much of, and that is an encumbering card, and that is incredibly powerful against dwarfs, as you can imagine, because against the deck that you're playing, because it's going to be really making the most of their lack of mobility.
Essentially, what you're trying to do at the moment is burn me out, so the round ends and I have to ditch all my good stuff without having used it. Yeah.
I do. There's one of your guys I do not want to get close to. Now you do have the advantage of these step cards. You see those? Those are very powerful cards. Some cards have the step power. I'm just highlighting one, and this is a great strategy for countering the weaknesses of the inherent weaknesses of dwarf characters, is having a bunch of these type of cards in your deck. What I'm trying to do is slow you down and keep you away from me, and trying to. I have to. If I get up close to you, I'm gonna get my arse handed to me. So you charge. That's interesting. So now, unfortunately, I can see you have no movement cards left on Smasher.
Yeah, you'd say interesting. Really, it was something else.
However, I'm now kind of screwed because I've got two characters close to you, so I'm in a bit of a pickle, because I can either run away or because you're going to be able to attack one of them with those step cards. So unless, of course, the cone will prevent you from doing it. No. Do we want to do this? No, that's a waste. I think what we're going to do is we're going to be amazingly defensive and do this, because I'm scared after what happened to me last time with Ben Lee.
You bring shame to your household.
It's not a new thing, I'm afraid.
Okay,
what's he got? He's gonna.
Yeah, I can't do a lot really.
No. Hmm. 20. Okay, what have you got there? So this guy we do not know a great deal about, do we? Okay. I think we're gonna. Yeah. Well, this could end poorly for me, but we're gonna. You've shamed me into engaging you in combat. I've risen to the bait. Now you're probably gonna exact some terrible revenge on me. Okay. Your silence is worrying me.
You did indeed call my bluff there. So.
You thought I was gonna run like a small child, and you probably weren't wrong in making that assumption. Actually. Well, now, what am I gonna do here? Do I really want to do that? Am I really gonna? Am I gonna get a bloodlust, a frenzy, and race towards an almost certain death? What do we got? We got 7, 14, 20. Good lord, 25 points of damage. That probably wouldn't be smart if I rushed over and tried to. I'd like to, though. I have to tell you, I'd like to give Mr. Smasher a thorough seeing to. Okay, that is a very scary state of affairs. Mass Frenzy is a... Lance was very sad when he looked at my equipment and saw that I had no pieces of equipment with the Mass Frenzy card, because it's monstrously powerful. As you can see, +3 damage to all melee attacks. On a melee group of characters as you have. Yeah, this is... What the hell do I want to do? Oh... This is not good. Sorry for being so defensive. This is not what I was planning on. Let's try this. I just realised how terrified of this deck I am, and I speak from experience, because in Alpha I played this deck a lot, and in fact this was my favourite card. And the Rageblood Dagger, which is what it shows on, is I had a character with 2 of them, and it used to make Ben Lee weep like a small child.
When you sit down and you're designing like the Rageblood Dagger for the names of these things, how do you do that? Is it literally item by item you go, oh, what's the best kind of fantasy stereotype exaggeration we can get, or have you got a sort of generator there that cobbles different phrases together?
We have a gentleman called Dorian, and Dorian is one of the sort of great. I think he's one of the great game designers, sort of, who people don't know about. He worked on System Shock 1, and he worked on Ultra Underworld, and he worked on all the great Looking Glass games, and he was at Irrational with us for a long time. And poor Dorian has had to work through 2,000 pieces of equipment and name them all in Card Hunter. It's quite astonishing. He's done an amazing job of it. People like the names. Like this, our favourite is the Bohemian Ear Spoon. That's a piece of equipment in the game. But yeah, he's literally gone through every piece of equipment and named them all. And
it must be sort of for about the first half it's really fun, and then after that it's just this horrible tedious grind.
You just run out of ideas. You run out of ideas, exactly, and then you feel ashamed of yourself for coming up with lame things. But no, I mean, Dorian's done an amazing job. We've actually reduced the number of items in the beta. We had 2,000, I think, and we had to get it. We got it down to 1,400. We've still got all those items. Hopefully we'll use them at some point, but it was just too overwhelming for people, and we thought we needed to start with a smaller subset. But yeah, Dorian has this incredible series of spreadsheets, like which he runs in kind of in sync. You look at the way he works. He's got like 5 spreadsheets open because he's balancing. He's got to balance all of these different the different criteria for the selection for the creation of these pieces of equipment, and it's mind-bogglingly complicated. Because trying to keep, it's the essence of the game is keeping these pieces of equipment balanced, and that is a very hard mathematical thing to do. Okay, so unfortunately,
that's about 99% of what Blizzard's Infinite staff do. It's just every time a new item is added, they have to see the repercussions against everything else in the game.
Yeah. Now, I unfortunately have a bunch of drawbacks. Wow, that's really impressive. I just managed to draw 2 fumble cards in a row. And now I'm crying because it made me discard my Mighty Hack card, which you will see in the dialogue box, with an attack of 14. I am upset. I was holding on to that for two turns, so that I'm bummed. But the thing about drawback cards is that they're about cycling through your deck, so they're not as disastrous as they first seem.
Yeah, which is gone, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's increasing the probability of drawing the cards that you really need. So it's, again, I think John and some of the guys have done a really great job of making some of these cards have a more interesting meaning than that first initially appears. So, unfortunately, I have another one, Squeamish. This has not been a happy event for me this turn. Three drawbacks.
Oh, that is.
Okay, it's my turn now. So I was sitting there stunned, and because I didn't know what the hell I was, because I had 3 of those drawbacks. So what have I got here? So, yeah, okay. So this is the card I really want this turn against these guys. And we've got this going on over here. This could end so poorly for me. Yeah, I think I know what's going to happen. Oh God! Oh man, this is not going to be good. Right, well, you know what? I'm gonna run away from the dude with the mass frenzy. Well, I'm getting, because he's gonna one-shot my bloody. He's gonna one-shot this guy, isn't he? Where do I go though? Can he? I've always got this. I suppose that's my backup. As is this. Oh, I know what I want to do. Okay, I'm gonna. Let's try this. It's kind of difficult doing this whilst trying to explain my strategy without giving, it's kind of a ridiculous state of affairs.
Oh, I see. Armor fail.
Armor fail. Yeah, the rusty armor failed. It's alright. You only took... Yeah.
Oh dear. I've got a spell I cannot self-cast. That's a shame. No! Oh no! Oh no!
Did you do it on me?
I've misclicked. And,
you did it on me, did you?
Yeah, I've just made you supremely powerful against me.
But don't worry, Alec, because this is my priest, and I can, don't fear not. Wow, it did 2 damage there.
I just need a moment here.
That's okay. That is okay, because I don't have any attack cards, my friend. So you have lucked out. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this, I think. Okay. I did the spark. And it looks like you blocked it that time, but that was interesting because this is some interesting thing. Some armor cards, I didn't know this for a long time I was working on the game, is that armor cards have keep or they don't. So rusty armor has no keep, which means that once it blocks, it actually leaves your hand.
Yeah, you backed it up.
Okay. So what did you just? What did I miss there?
I did a weak chop, and it was so weak that it failed to harm you in any way.
Well, I parried it which was what I think I mentioned before on this podcast, is something which I didn't use much of in the single player game, was parrying, but I think it's critical in a multiplayer game. I would argue it's more important than armor, personally. Okay, so this is an interesting one, which Lance got a trait which Lance got me to put in my deck, which is immovable, and is a trait. And what it means is people can't move me around, which when you play a lot of multiplayer, you know that's where the agony starts, is when people start doing teleportation and moving me onto hot things, doing evil things to me. So what do we got? So we can see he's got that. We know this is our strategy here for the turn, and we see this guy's got that, and this guy's got that, and this guy's got these things. So he's the big daddy, this guy. Let's see what he does. So this is a rather poor turn here. Yeah, I don't. Okay. Oh, it's my turn. I'm so busy strategizing that I'm sitting there wasting time. Okay, what have we got? Now, I promise I'm not being a Jesse. I'm actually just not particularly well equipped here.
That sounds quite Jesse-esque to me.
There's a great pleasure in chatting to another Englishman, because I don't get a chance to say these things very often. People look at me and think, "I'm just what language are you speaking? What planet are you from?"
Yeah, you'll need to provide a translation track for this.
Exactly. Yeah, some subtitles. Jesse in colloquial English is this.
It may be slightly offensive, but we didn't mean it in that way.
Mildly offensive. Yeah. Right.
Are you guys thinking about I keep unconsciously just trying to scroll in because I've got quite a high res screen, which makes everything quite dinky, and it makes me want to sort of get bigger, because I think it's vector art, isn't it?
It is.
Or,
so we're not.
Have you thought about that?
I don't think I need to talk to John about that. I don't know the answer to that, honestly. We've obviously tried to make this in a way where if you've got a very low resolution on a not a particularly powerful PC, then it's gonna look good on that, as well as on if you've got a monster PC like I have. I will have a chat with John, and I will try to put something subtitled on this podcast so that we can explain it. Meanwhile, I am bumbling and clicking on cards somewhat haphazardly because I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Sorry to be a wimp. It's probably a bit more politically correct, isn't it?
So be it.
So be it. Okay, I'm waiting for this guy to do this stuff.
Oh, I keep forgetting about them.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it?
Gosh darn tooting cone of cold.
It's maddening. The cone of cold.
I managed to suppress a naughty swear there.
You can swear away on this show. I didn't want to do that. Well, I don't want to do that, but I did want to do that. Okay, because I've kind of realised I can probably do a bit of this if things go slightly awry. I think these are really frustrating. The terrain cards, I think, they're multiplayer. These are the things that cream you. Oh, creep me specifically. That combined with encumbrance cards are pretty deadly. Luckily, you've got a whole lot of hit points.
Sorry, just having a good old think here. That is the worst possible crime on the internet.
That is the nature of the beast. Think about it. I am okay. Interesting. So I might try and do. Now, am I getting greedy? I might be getting greedy here. If I do this, I'd like to get into range to do this to move him to here or there. I suspect that will result in a right royal ganking. So I might just take my money and run at this stage. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that. I may still use that later because these are around for a little while. Okay, so discarding cards. What's this block? Okay, that's pretty rubbish block. I'll probably get rid of that. I'll get rid of that. Tempted to keep that in my hand. Always nice to have a second movement card, but I'm going to get rid of that. And I'll probably move that on. Yeah, and maybe that as well, because I want to have the extra run in my hand. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Let's get rid of that.
I only just realised that the sort of Eye of Sauron logo on my cards denotes the ones that you are
there you go.
having a spy on.
There you go. So you can see every turn the movement card that the opponent has. There you are. You see? Okay. Yeah, it's really something I've only just recently got. Okay, so you moved in there. Okay, I have a couple of nice looking traits here. Let's try this slicer, which I like. Spark inductor, which will improve my ranged sparks. Or my ranged, the magic electrical. Should point out the mighty spark ping, which to this day no one is sure is actually whether it's was a deliberate typo or not. But we like it so much that it's stayed in the game. The mighty spark ping.
Exactly. It should be free to invent your own terms as well as
I think what we're
homage existing ones.
I think what we're seeing there is we're seeing Dorian at item 1899 deciding to tear his hair out, going slightly mad. I think, well, I need to come up with something brand new. Oh, my turn. Okay, what am I doing? So we got this. We still have this issue of this guy with that there. This guy has been completely ineffective. Okay, we've got a bit of a fight happening over here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start doing a bit of... I'm worried he might have a block. I'm going to do this. You know what? I should not do that because I've realised he has a damn step card here, and that means good night Vienna for my mage. So he needs to... how do I put this? Stage a tactical retreat, I believe, is the... yeah, I believe that is... Unless I want to do that... He comes over here. Okay, I might do something a little bit like that. I'm going to do this. Let's play the inspiration card on the mage. Hopefully it will give him something useful. And see what happens here. Now, I think I might have just hoisted myself by my own petard and trying to be a little bit too clever, because I think I know what's going to happen. Ooh, interesting. So Raging Strike is cool. 7 damage, but it also... That's a good one to get... That did a lot of damage to me, but that's an interesting card because it also it increases the damage you take if you hold it in your hand. Let's try. So I'm going to give it back to you with the unholy wellspring that you so generously gave me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay, so this is your priest, which is interesting. So you've got your 2 warriors here and your priestess. You've kind of separated them out. Well, I think this is an interesting one where he's kind of the buffer for these guys. He sits at the back and buffs these 2 warriors. Okay, so we have that. I think I know what's going to happen. I think I know how the story ends.
I don't.
Not in a happy place either. So he's got that and go there. So I'm really going to get taken by somebody here, aren't I? And if he comes here, I really want to play this because I really want to get him on that. But that means I'm going to have to take that.
It's very chess-like this
is
in
it?
multiplayer.
You think so?
Actually.
It's very thoughtful, isn't it? I just realised I'm in danger of running out of time because I've been talking so much. So I have 4 minutes left on my thing. I'm just going to start playing recklessly. Says he, getting his excuses ready in advance. It's cagey, isn't it? That's the thing. It's very sort of cat and mouse, and it means it can be super frustrating when you do something where you die. Okay. Ooh, interesting.
It's interesting that in single player I've been thinking very much turn to turn.
Yeah.
Whereas here I'm a couple of turns ahead,
right.
A bit more.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a much personally. I think it really sings in multiplayer. I have found it a much more rewarding, if extremely painful, experience sometimes. Okay, so you're doing a bit of that. So I need to really do something here. What am I doing with that? Can I do that? What's the range on that? That's a range of 4. Okay, right. I'm going to do this. Okay. Okay, so you didn't block.
Flexi telekinesis.
Oh, you blocked that. Yeah. Oh no, it didn't. Because it had a hard to. I don't know. Okay, he's going to go. I'm going to move him here. That's right, and that there.
Oh.
Yeah.
You unbelievable sod.
That's a nasty tactic, but okay. So what are we doing? You see, that's where that immovable card that Lance got me to put in my deck is so powerful, because it means that people can't do that to you, and also having cleansing burst. Okay. So now one of my friends is taking this experience to Skype me about his fantasies about World of Tanks. Thank you, Nick Johnson. Appreciate that. I'm sure. Okay. What are we doing? So you're there. I think I'm going to do a bit of this. Can I get over there? I think I probably can. I really want to finish your priest off, and preferably I want to go in here, but I'm worried about that. So I'm going to go here. Yeah, I think it's a cagey game, but also because I know how unbelievably powerful this dwarf deck is at melee. So I'm trying my damnedest to stay away from you, because you will beat the snot out of me.
You've got the benefit of knowing that means I just can't get close to you, and you're
Yeah.
whittling me away slowly, forcing me to discard good cards, I guess.
Yeah, but that's why it's interesting, because now I hope what you're going to do is you're going to go back and you're going to go, okay, so this deck, is incredibly powerful close up, but it really needs some tweaking and some additional mobility, because I think that's the most basic mistake people make moving from single player to multiplayer is really ignoring the movement cards. Okay, so we got rid of the priest, which is good.
She was the best mind of her generation.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed this card, Alec. I might even point it out to you. So don't pass. Let me. I should be in somewhat breach of the spirit of the occasion, but I want to make sure that you've seen a certain card before we move on, because I think it's one of the most, as I said, one of the most powerful cards in the deck, in the game rather.
Well,
In fact, you can't.
Oh, hang on. Have I made a terrible misreading? And when it says step something, I get to take that move before.
Exactly. So
despite what the combat ratio.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's so profoundly powerful, because it's for a dwarf deck. It really surprises the hell out of people, because you can play, you move, like that. So like that.
Oh, I thought the when it was showing me the potential combat radius, that was including the step.
Right. Never mind. I think actually
tragic mistake.
You're going easy on me. I think you're trying to make sure that I look good in front of the card hunter players, and I do appreciate that. I kind of need a bit of that, frankly. Okay, you almost killed my bloody priest there. Let's stage a tactical retreat. Let's go over here. Yeah.
I know it's common in a lot of games, but it's so effective that until someone is dead, they are still at maximum danger, essentially.
Yep.
Even though you're on 2, you could still theoretically kill me.
Yeah. Well, it's the cards. I mean, he's the most powerful part of it is that every turn he's generating, more cards. So essentially, that's the engine of the game, is the number of cards available to me every turn. And so by killing one of my characters, you're depriving me of 33% of those cards. So it's getting other people's characters. As you have done
to me, and I feel very, very limited just by having one guy gone. It makes such a big difference.
You know what? I am actually running out of time. I'm 2 minutes 18 because I've been warbling on so much. So I'm gonna have to play up a storm here to try to get you out. Right. I actually really like the chess clock, because I think it makes a resource of time. And so I actually go from resenting my opponent spending time thinking about his turn to actually thinking, oh, this is good. Okay, I'm really going to have to play quickly here, I can see. And obviously I'm worried about him moving up here and beating the snot out of him. We're going to have to... So my first strategy is going to be get the hell out of the way in case there's another dodgy step card there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try a bit of this. Let's try this. Oh wow!
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's kind of nice, because I've got two traits for electoral attacks attached to Tenerva the wizard. So that's kind of that's her strategy. Oh my god! So that was okay. That was interesting, because that was all-out attack. Now, do you see that? That if you'd played another melee card with that, it would have doubled the damage of that card. That's an interesting card, because that has two effects. You see, it could be played as an attack, or you can keep it in your hand and it doubles the effect of any damage you use.
Oh, I thought it was going to activate the effect by playing it.
Right. So
mistake.
That's okay. Again, it's these cards. There's often a double meaning to them. So what do we got? What are we doing? What am I doing? That's the question. You know what I'm doing? I'm running out of time. That's what I'm doing. Okay, let's do this. This could be potentially quite humiliating, running out of time here and losing the game to you, because I'm poor at time management. But somehow enormously satisfying for you, I would suspect. No.
Sorry, how am I going to win? Because you've already got 3 points.
I've got
right?
one. It will just. If I run out of time, you win.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And vice versa. Oh, oh, oh! That hurt. That hurt. That hurt. But I can't. I don't have the time to. I don't have time to bleed, as Arnie says in. Somebody says in Predator. Jesse Ventura says in Predator. Oh, okay. So Dwarf Battlecry
Ain't
is...
got time to bleed.
That's it. The governor of Minnesota, I believe. Okay, I'm now in a bad place because I'm actually panicking. I tried to play that and he's stunned, so I can't... You know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. No, I didn't mean to do that. I really didn't mean to do that. Let's do this.
A picture of a mouse. How appropriate.
Yeah, I'm feeling somewhat mouse-like now in my terror. Let's get this guy. And this, of course. Well, one of the interesting things about making this game is seeing the people playing it just getting so much better than us, which obviously isn't saying a great deal because I'm in my case. But yeah, the guys who are playing the beta are just terrifyingly badass. Okay, now you're wreaking righteous revenge on me. I'm going to start to try and heal myself in a. I don't actually know how I'm going to bloody win this game. That's the scary thing. I really don't. I've got 54 seconds left. This is not good.
So I could just troll you by just sitting here.
No, because that's going to burn your time down, right? So you're gonna. That's not going to help you, unfortunately. Okay, I probably didn't mean to do that. What am I going to do? I don't know how I'm going to win this. 48 seconds left. This is kind of embarrassing. I haven't run out of time in this game for a long time. Actually, there's always a chance you might run out of time as well, so... Okay, let's go like that. Okay. Okay. Ooh, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do. Oh. I need to do this with this against this guy here. Okay. Oh, yes, toughness. Gotta love that card. Oof. Gotta love that card. It's a very... Oh, I've got a trait to play. Squeamish. Okay, I'm gonna get down here. 35 seconds. I'd like to think that this drama is all in it's been manufactured as part of a careful plan to demonstrate this game at its best, but unfortunately it really hasn't. Let's try that. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay, what happened there? Wow, there's a whole kind of chain reaction.
Oh, that's all the cards. I'm still alive. Somehow still alive.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do something crazy. Crazy and unpredictable. Oh. I had to do that. I had to do it. But sometimes
trash everything for everyone.
Exactly. That is, yeah. But you know what? It didn't kind of work out the way I wanted it to work out. Look, yeah, that wasn't necessary. And now I don't know where the hell I am or what I'm doing. Right, let's move. I need to get back to the damn center of the map. I can't win the game unless you run out of time. Although, look, looks like you're going to run out of time, Alec.
To do frantic clicking.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Let's try that.
Oh.
There you go. Return to the lobby. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it feels a lot more high stakes.
Right.
I don't think I'd... Well, maybe I would go dwarves again, but
yeah.
I was quite frustrated by the fact I was just sat there sort of with the ability to murder with wild abandon, but I couldn't really do anything about it.
Right.
They were just slowly eroding me. But
right.
I don't know if that's due to my own unfamiliarity with the dwarves or that I should have a more varied pack, essentially, so I can have at least one guy who's going forward and doing stuff.
Right.
If you're doing that.
But I think that's the sort of essence of Card Hunter, is these are starting points with sort of relatively sort of simple but strongly defined strategies for each of these decks, and it's now up to you to go and look and think, well, I'd quite like it to have this flavour and to be able to counter these kind of strategies. I mean, the one thing you can't know is what your opponent's going to have unless you play him regularly, and so therefore you may get into a situation where there's very little you can really do because he's built the perfect counter to your deck. But but that's it's just the classic dynamic of any collectible card game. And so I think what I'd be interested in if you then go back and think, well, I probably need some more move cards, I need some more step cards in my hand, I need to not have 3 dwarfs, I need to have maybe you needed to have this or that. So
sort of my inclination, and you'll have to tell me if you think this generally works, is to have 2 attack guys, maybe dwarves, strong but stout, and 1 ranged, either priest or mage, but just something where maybe I can do some damage without being right next to you.
Well, the most powerful, unfortunately, the most powerful arrangement I played against was in Alpha, which unfortunately was John, who John Che, who's obviously the guy behind the game. He came up with a diabolical strategy, which was he had an elven warrior, which was interesting, a single elven warrior, and then he had 2 human priests, and the human priests were pure buffers. They just buffed the hell out of this elven warrior and made him an absolute killing machine who would then rush around the board beating the hell out of me. And it was a really incredibly powerful deck. But what was really interesting about it was it was a deck that built up momentum. So it was sort of like if you could get to it early, I like the way I talk about this as if I actually ever managed to do it, but if you could get to it early, then that was the only way you could stop it. If you could get to the warrior and kill him, then you could win. But it was amazingly powerful. But it was, really, it's limited to your imagination as to what and playing with the cards and experimenting. And I hope if we've got this right, that there shouldn't be any one dominant strategy, and there should be tons of different ideas that people can explore and be relatively successful with.
But if you're playing against that guy that you just said, and you're not that familiar with the game, how aware would you be that was happening? Or would you just kind of saunter over there and then just get crushed instantly and not really know why?
Well, I recently discovered a quote which I'm rather fond of by Winston Churchill, which says, what was it? He said, "I like learning, but I never enjoy being taught." And, and there is a certain evolutionary experience to this. Is that the way you learn the game is by playing against people who are better than you. Like sitting down and listening to Lance look at my equipment was a masterclass. So there's no way to predict what he's going to have coming into the game. Unless you play against him regularly. So, it can be a pretty brutal experience. I think our challenge is to make sure that we get the matchmaking to work really well, so that you're matched against people of a comparable skill level. And if we can get that right, then we can have something that's really fun. I don't think it's fun if you're going to just get annihilated. But that's going to take a lot of work to get that right, and that's a big part of what we're doing in the betas to try and hit that.
I mean, Blizzard got it very right with StarCraft in terms of you do feel matched, but their resources are incredible. I don't envy you trying to
what you mean
achieve similar with a fairly small indie team
with one programmer.
Quite.
And honestly, that's Alec. It's one of the hardest things for us, having made this transition from these giant console games like BioShock to something like Card Hunter. Is that we're constantly constrained by resources. Like it's every day we have to triage a list of things we desperately want to do and have to make a decision that this is the thing we desperately have to do right now. And that is a painful experience, because there's always more we'd like to do and we can't. So. But we will.
And I guess that if the game's successful and you're able to expand, it will be more of that sort of thing, like the firefighting and the balancing, than the kind of we can do these amazing new extra stuff.
Yeah, I did a bit of work at PopCap and saw the sort of Bejeweled Blitz team, and being you get locked into something, and it takes its toll, because the games as a service is difficult because things are often going wrong and services falling down in the middle of the night and you have to go and fix it. But I would be super happy if we could make this game successful, and I could work on this for a very long time, because I hope you can tell that there's been a lot of love and care put into every bit of this, and I hope we can make it a success, because it's it's very special to us. We work very hard on it, and we want to keep working. I want to keep working on it. I want to write more stories about Melvin. I've got to tell you, writing Melvin has been the most fun I think I've ever had in the games industry. and I would like to write
I
some
like
more.
the way it's sort of passive storytelling. It's
Yeah.
like GLaDOS. It's just sort of there as you play, rather than kind of whoa, hold on, I need to tell you something now.
Well, that's
very well.
and that's actually very deliberate. A few years ago, we worked on. I did some work. I helped Ken Levine write a talk at GDC, a keynote at GDC, which was entitled "Nobody Cares About Your Story." And
Oh, I remember that.
right,
one, yeah.
and people kind of got a bit upset about it, but it's I think it's actually an incredibly important point. That something I learned from Ken is that to write good story in video games, you have to accept that the majority of people just want to play the game and they're not going to care about your story. So in writing that story, you need to make sure that it is entirely optional and that it doesn't get in the way. So one of the disciplines that's been very difficult, Alec, has been actually trying to keep the skits to a maximum of 1 or 2 beats, because I don't want people to have to be pressing the continue button to get through it if they don't want to play it, if they don't want to read it. And so you've got to exercise a lot of restraint, because frankly the natural inclination is to write these giant skits of 15 pages long of Melvin going blah 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 blah. And I know that a lot of people don't, no matter how much I love Melvin, I know that a lot of people aren't going to care about it. So
but especially in a game like this where so much of it is based upon the idea of the player being hungry. They want to win. They want to get new loot and stuff, and being interrupted. If you're in the middle of World of Warcraft and this guy pops up and goes, "Hey, I've got some gags for you."
Yes,
it is difficult. So you've got to have it going on sort of at the same time rather than purely in between. Well, you're sort of there. You're like.
Well, and that's the sort of...
You have to press OK, don't you? But
unfortunately,
it's very quick.
Yeah, unfortunately we do, because of the nature of the game we have. But I mean, that's why in games like Half-Life and Bioshock, the environmental storytelling is so incredibly powerful that the player can wander around and he sees things happening rather than being told them, and that because it's totally optional. And it's also something that's happening at the same time that you're playing the game. It's not. It doesn't break the game. It doesn't break you out of the game. It's why I dislike cutscenes so much, is because they just break you out of the game. So hopefully we've succeeded. We'll see. I'm sure that some people, it won't be to everybody's taste. I'm fine with that. We've worked hard on it. I just want the whole game to feel like a single thing, and hope that people what I really hope that people feel more than anything is that feeling of sitting in the basement in 1982 as I was in Feltham playing playing Dungeons and Dragons with Don Powers and Anu Schneider, right? Like that's the feeling we've really tried to capture. And
there's genuinely a sort of warmth to it,
right?
Which is the battle you've got with the free to play elements. Interrupting that and entirely sympathise.
Yeah,
it feels very fond of everything about it, and it's doing that special kind of mocking that isn't mean. It's going, this is faintly absurd, but it's lovely at the same time.
Yeah, well, that thank you, but I must say that getting that line, that is been amazingly hard, and the line between laughing with and laughing at is razor thin, and it's we would never ever want anybody to feel that we were laughing at this material, because it's actually very important. It's very precious to us, because it's kind of it's really the sort of the origin story for us as gamers. So we want to be incredibly respectful, but as you point out, I mean, when you look at the old stuff, it's there's some kind of funny and humorous stuff to it, and to the whole idea. So we wanted to be respectful to it, but also point out some of the things that are funny, right? So like the juxtaposition between this big bombastic Gary making these giant bombastic statements about demons spewing forth from the gates of hell, and then turning around and offering you like a bowl. Can you pass the Cheetos, please? It's sort of
and the worrying about what to say to the pizza girl is infinitely more important than defeating the deathless forces of darkness.
That's it, and it's a sort of interweaving of the two is kind of faintly absurd. But one of the great pleasures, I should shut up a minute because I'm just excited about this, but one of the greatest pleasures of working on this game has been, I have been travelling around the world as a video game designer for the last 10 years, and the only thing that I have left from my real life back home in England, growing up, are all my original Dungeons and Dragons and RuneQuest and Call of Cthulhu and my board games. And I'm telling you, Alec, I have not looked at this stuff for 15 years, and I've been dragging it around, and I've got it all. Like, it's not just a few books; it's like boxes of the stuff. And because of working on this project, sitting behind me in my study, I have all of my original D&D sitting, and I had to go through and read it all again. And I'm kind of cursing I'm cursing my inner 10-year-old Joe, because I'm looking at I'm looking right now at B1 in Search of the Unknown, and inside the cover I've actually coloured in some of the characters. but it's kind of amazing, because I haven't looked at this stuff since I was playing it, and it's
presumably it's got that smell by now, where
it has that smell.
There's some mystical tone.
It does, and you know what's crazy is you look at these pictures and you just get this feeling of being 9 again, and seeing that it was like, I don't know if you remember that feeling when you discovered D&D for the first time. It was just like an atom bomb going off in my imagination, and so every one of these pictures is just replete with these incredibly intense feelings of there being this other world outside there and being in it. And of course, the funny thing is, you look at the pictures now, is that the art is not, it's obviously, we've been spoiled in the last 20, 30 years, and some of the art is not as great as you thought it was when you were 8 or 9. But it's
but it's still got a charm, like when you got Boris Falaggio or whatever he's called turning up, and everything gets kind of overdone and too sexy and too bulbous. It took some of the simplicity, the purity of it away.
The thing I've found hardest thing to do is to try to write in the style of the original D&D adventures, and I've spent like a couple of weeks reading all of this stuff and trying to read the Gary Gygax has this incredibly specific tone. Like, it's worth going and look at it. He's got this really interesting tone. It's kind of quite dry, and it's very factual, and he has these little obsessions about things like describing like the dimensions of a room and the materials of a room, and he goes into incredible detail about the stonework and like the objects sitting on a dining room table. And
the Fighting Fantasy books are a bit like that as well, aren't they? I think.
Right.
But it's never about the meaning of anything. It's simply about the situation.
Right. And I guess the reason why is because fundamentally they were, he was coming from a tabletop wargaming background, wasn't he? Where he, where it was about writing rules, and so it was about being very factual. But you could also see he had a real yearning to sort of add a sort of a real kind of narrative element to it. And what's interesting is the evolution you see from the early adventures back to the later ones. Like, I was looking at, let me just see, I think it's S3, and then S3 Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, and then S4. Yeah, S4, which is the Lost Caverns of I can't pronounce it. Zogicanth. Where he's obviously evolved as a writer, and as a the whole, I guess.
Or has hired some.
Oh, so cynical, Alec.
Yeah.
But no, I mean.
I just found out Ken Levine has a scriptwriter.
Oh, no. Actually, you find out that Ken Levine is the scriptwriter for Card Hunter, and I'm hiding behind him. But
Ken, is that you?
That's it, probably. But no, but the guy gets in, you could see that he really sort of evolved as a writer, but also that probably being a dungeon master was evolving. Like, being a role-playing gamer was evolving, and it was changing people's expectations.
Yeah.
So it's just been, as you can tell, I'm a little bit enthusiastic about the subject, and it's just been, it's been a great treat, Alec, because working in AAA video games can be immensely tough and soul-sapping, and the experiences that are the hardest are when you get games canned. When you get games canned and you have to fire people, and I've had a fair share of that. Obviously I've worked on some successful games, but I've had a fair share of that over the last period of my career, and that can really suck the life out of the joy of making video games, which is really the essence of making anything good. Is you have to have that excitement about the material. And so for me, working on this game has been really coming back to that and rediscovering that. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I still had it after the last sort of few experiences. And so being able to sit down and write silly, silly little skits about Gary eating pizza with Karen and arguing with Melvin. And there's a little bit of I shouldn't say this, he'll be very upset with me, but there's a little bit of my older brother in Melvin, and
I think that shows
striving to break from psychological domination. I should also point out at this point that John has written a huge amount of this, and so has Ben. So it's not my efforts alone, but it's been an incredible palate cleanser and refreshing experience and reminder of why I make video games. I should shut up, really, Alec. You're busy, and you're a new father, and you've actually got to work for a living, as opposed to me sitting here in my pajamas raving about Dungeons and Dragons. So,
well, on RPS we're a bit closer to amongst game journalism anyway. We're able to pick and choose a bit more. Well, but it is lovely because I've spoken to many developers in your former situation, and you can sense the dissembling, what they're not allowed to say, the fact that a lot of what is in their game was not based on their decisions, and it's sort of vicariously dispiriting at times. So it's always lovely to meet someone who is genuinely like, I wanted to do this, I've done this, I hope you like it. It's what it should be about.
Well, but it's you hope so, but it's also pretty unique. I mean, John has been able to do this because of his successes at Irrational Games. John was the co-founder of Irrational with Ken, and therefore, he's in a position of his life now where he can afford to fund something, which is a pet project essentially. But if we were to go and try to get funding for Card Hunter, we would probably be laughed out of the room because it's A, really experimental, and B, it is self-consciously wrapped in what a lot of people would say is a pretty niche setting. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think you'd do pretty well on Kickstarter, to be honest. But that would, you'd have to balance that against the free-to-play thing. But I think there's an appetite. People seem to respond very warmly whenever we've mentioned it, without me having to kind of hammer the point home.
Right.
Like, hey, I remember D&D. You think it's like this, but actually it was like that.
Yeah. Well, it's a great joy to try to make something because we think it's going to be amazing, rather than to try to work back from what does the market want and how can we second guess that, and then have 200 people come and tell you what the game should be, and have this terrible sort of death by game design committee where where everything becomes vanilla and inoffensive and the edges get rubbed off so that you can appeal to everybody, and in the end actually appealing to nobody, and that there was a special kind of death to that feeling. And I had an interview a few years ago with a very old and experienced game designer who made me laugh my arse off, because he said that every game design project is like a failed romance, because and I could, it's that terrible feeling of going in thinking this is going to be it, and then the sort of slow death as you realise that it's not going to be. And of course, working in a small team like this on a small project like this, that we can keep much closer to the original vision of the game, which is John has a very, very powerful and singular vision of what this game is, and he doesn't really have to listen to anybody other than the fans, which we try to listen to, and we do, but obviously he's got this game in his head, and he wants to make it, and we just pray that it is going to be successful so that we can carry on working on it.
Yeah, and you've got to do without, well, it's good to not have the focus group and the money men, you've got to force yourself to do is this fun test. Is very hard to do from a subjective point of view.
Yeah, well, you can't, because you've been working on it for so long and you're so close to it. But the thing that we do is that I'm in the forums every day. I'm looking at what people. I'm taking a qualitative check of what's working and what isn't. But then the other thing we do is that we and this is a great advantage of games as a service, is that we get to track a ton of information about how people are playing and what they're doing, and that will give us a sort of quantitative take on some of those questions. So, if like 80% of people aren't coming back to play the game on the day after they signed up, you've got a problem. So that is helpful, but it is difficult to be objective about your game, Alec, and that's why we sort of rely on the fans and people like you guys to come back to us and tell us if we're smoking crack or not, which we may still be doing.
You can't trust game journalists, we lie about it.
So you may be lying to me this whole show.
It's just all about the hits,
Is it? Oh dear. So you're in your own special kind of cynicism about it all. Have you probably been on your own your own arc?
Yeah, having worked at major magazine publishing companies.
Yeah. Is it the same?
Hands are more tied.
Yeah, isn't it the same what you've described to me about making games? Is it the same for you guys and the process you've been through?
A bit. I mean, certainly we founded RPS for very similar reasons. Of increasingly being told what to do and how to do it to meet some manager's agenda, but there were nowhere near as many levels or as many people as I guess you face in mainstream games publishing. But
I'm sure many of the same problems. I mean, I was always struck when I'd read the big magazines that there was an inherent tension between the requirements of editorial and the requirements of the advertising group, and it was always, I would imagine that created tremendous tension within some of these magazines.
Oh yes, I have some stories.
I bet you do. So I don't think that's any different from the experience I've just outlined making games, because I think it's the same tension between the creative quality of the product versus the commercial realities of the world that you live in.
Yeah, and it's sort of sad because when a company is doing that, placing those limitations or those fears, they haven't necessarily tried to see what happened if they weren't there, if the editorial didn't support the advertising, or if the game wasn't focus group based. Like you occasionally see aberrations like the Saints Row games where they've kind of gone, fuck it, let's do this anyway, and it's kind of gone okay.
Yeah.
But in most cases, no one's actually tested to see what would happen if they stayed true to themselves.
Well, there's that great. I think it's. Let me get this right. It's either Disraeli or Gladstone. I think it's Disraeli, Benjamin Disraeli, the British Prime Minister in the 19th century, said there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I just think that one of my sort of first principles as a game designer is to believe that the people that play my games are usually smarter than me and have really good taste, and to therefore never assume that you can dictate to them their taste or to sort of talk down to them. And I think assuming that you can create something people are going to love by sort of looking by a formula and sort of using statistics to drive that creative process, I think is kind of a bit insulting to the audience, right?
Yeah. And it's the ultimate question of, do you want to be rich or do you want to be happy? Or I think actually the saying is happiness doesn't come from success comes from happiness.
Right.
So do what you want to do, and you've got to have faith that it will work out.
Now the problem is if you're essentially gambling millions of dollars on making a video game, and I've had a couple of experiences like this. I worked on this famous giant white elephant in British game development that I shudder when I mention it to people. It's a game called Republic the Revolution back in...
Oh yes, I'm well aware of it and its story.
I was one of the founders of that company, and that was...
I didn't know that.
That was one... Well, you shouldn't, because I try not to tell anyone, because it hurts me so much. But that was built on the dream that we're talking about, and that dream collided with the reality of our own ineptitude and inexperience. And but then the second beat to the same story is working on BioShock, which was as risky a prospect and project idea as Republic. And in fact, when I did the pitches for BioShock, people were kind of laughing me out of the room pretty much, because they were like, so hold on, you're asking us for $10 million to make a game on a first-person shooter in an underwater dystopia based on the writings of Ayn Rand. Like, that was as crazy an idea.
You're killing little girls.
Right. And in some ways I think Card Hunter is a similar kind of thing, in that it's sort of it's not something that a marketing team can look at and look to history and say, this game will be a success based on the historical performance of similar titles. And so what it means is that, it can either be a great success, like something like, in the way that BioShock was, or it could be an utter failure in the way that Republic was. And so it's very, very hard to make new types of games, and very risky.
Yes. Yeah, well, especially when they need a huge audience. But the seas are changing. Seas are changing.
Thank God, hey.
Yeah. Just hope it maintains, and it's not going to turn out to be like a bubble like Facebook games. Where that would be horrifying. If everyone just lost interest one day.
Well, what I can say I'm excited about is that I am seeing all of the people that I know and love and respect who've been making games for a long time, leaving big companies and setting up in their own little independent studios and like 2 or 3 man shops. And I'm really excited about that, because I think what you're going to see is an explosion of new ideas. And not, of course, not all of them are going to succeed, but people are going to really start to push the boundaries of what's possible again. Because I don't know about you, Alec, but honestly, around 5 years ago, I got really bored of playing the same types of games because I felt that the cost of game development had got so great that the range of the potential of games that we could make had narrowed to really a handful of genres. And I think that we're now going back the other way. We've got this sort of disaggregation of creative talent, and we're going to have hopefully a proliferation of ideas. And I think that's amazingly exciting, both as a game maker and as a game player.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of points even on RPS where it's like, what shall I post today? Oh, it's some bloody Space Marine and a bloody corridor. I don't care about this rubbish.
Yeah.
But then, like, again, recently it's been, I can just throw a rock in the air and I'm going to get something interesting that is unlike anything I've posted about in the last couple of months, and that's a wonderful state to be in.
It's exciting. I mean, it's the story I always tell is, I remember when I used to go, there was a game shop down the road. I grew up in Weybridge in Surrey, and there was a really kind of smelly kind of PC store down the road, and I'd go into that store, and every time I go in, I would find something that I'd never heard of. This is kind of back in the dark ages in like 1990 maybe, and I'd find like Pools of Radiance by SSI, or it was always some little gem. And then at some point in my life in the early 2000s, I knew everything that was going to be in the shop, and I took no pleasure in going to a shop. And I feel that I'm getting that experience back again, that when I go onto like Steam and I go and look in the strategy section, I know I'm going to find some weird like Eastern European strategy game that I'm going to absolutely love. Like,
definitely.
I'm going to get crazily excited about. Like, I'm playing Crusader Kings 2 at the moment, and I'm obsessed by this damn game. And it's a game about it's Football Manager meets medieval history. I mean, can you imagine selling that to a publisher?
Medieval marriage manager.
Okay, this is how it rolls. Right? Like, I can't imagine doing a pitch for that and then trying to get millions of dollars. But because the economics of the business have changed, people can now do risky things, and I think the audience will really respond to that. So I'm really just blathering on now. Look,
no, it's interesting stuff. Yeah, it's such a good time. It's even getting me. There's ideas I've been kicking around for ages, and I realised a couple of months ago, so hang on, I can do this. It will, I don't need to worry about getting someone to approve it.
Yeah.
I just need to find someone who wants to work with me.
Absolutely, and
amazing times.
Yeah, and the tools are out there. I mean, it's also, I mean, if people want to get into the games industry, I think it's actually the best time to try and get in, because if you haven't, the best way to do it is to go out, download Unity, and start bloody building something so that you can actually put it out there and show people, and get, and I think that's really exciting, because it means that the path to actually being a game designer has never been easier. I mean, at one point, probably 5 or 6 years ago, if you want to be a game designer, I would have said to you, just don't bother, because it's going to take you 15 years of political infighting to actually get into a position where you can actually have an effect on anything, and even then you're probably not going to be able to do it. Like, I was the creative director at LucasArts, and I realized even if you're the creative director at LucasArts, you still can't make the final creative decisions on the game.
I think everyone knows that's a poison chalice if ever there was one.
Well, indeed. I try not to say anything that will get me sued, but
that's another story.
I've been limping and I haven't been walking properly. But going back to the point, like, you can download Unity and you can start building something, and you can actually make even if you're not particularly technical, I think you can make a game that can catch someone's attention, and you can put it out there, and you can become a game designer. And so I think that's really exciting as well. Yeah. Well, Alec, I'm going to let you go. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Hope I haven't been enjoying it so much that
it's been fun. It's nice to have it not as a formal interview, just as a chat is a relative rarity from my side of the fence as well. So it's good fun. It's
like I was thinking about this. Yes, I was thinking it's a little bit like those really paranoid rock stars who turn up with a tape recorder so they can record the interview. Like, I've kind of turned it around.
Oh, you get a lot of that of mentioning no names, PRs in the games industry.
Do you? That's why I'm never going to be successful. I need to improve my attitude a bit. But anyway, I've been so I thought if I turn it around and I actually interview you, then it would be a bit easier. I'd be safer, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. It's been really awesome, and like I said to everybody that helps, like we really rely on the kind of coverage you guys give us to get our name out there, and we really appreciate it. And you know, it's great to get positive feedback, but it's really crucial for us. So thank you for the support you've given us, and thank you for
well, it's always a pleasure when there's a game one of us in RPS likes, and we're free to just write about it and give it the same profile as whatever. That's the joy of the job from this side as well.
It sounds like what you're doing is kind of similar to us, which is interesting. So thank you, Alec. I'm gonna stop recording, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Okay, no worries.